It's been 10 years since I had my last alcoholic drink. I remember not too long ago someone asked me, what is the single most thing that you are proud of? And I said quitting drinking. And I don't know, it just brings me so much pride because I can see how much I've evolved in those 10 years, and I don't know if I would have evolved that much if I didn't quit drinking. I, like most people, started drinking in college. I was never an alcoholic though, but I did drink heavily. Oftentimes we would go to parties, we would go to clubs, and I would drink until the lights went out. And I overshared and I, broke promises and boundaries and, respect from other people when I was just this sloppy drunk person. I personally didn't really get much out of drinking except feeling more social and outgoing and more likable, but I feel like I was putting on this persona that wasn't even me when I was drinking. And I wanted to be this funny person and all of that, and it was cool for a certain amount of time, but after a time, it did take a toll on my body. My body was starting to reject the alcohol, and I would throw up more and more. I think like a few months before I stopped drinking, I had such a bad hangover that I was throwing up for 4 days straight. I could not go to work. I had a headache, and it was just such a bad look. It was not good. I used alcohol to kind of escape from myself, from my childhood traumas, and I used it to kind of enact this sort of victim role. And yeah, it just wasn't healthy for me. I wasn't taking accountability for my own actions. I was just blaming others without having any sense of introspection, doing any kind of work. And I feel like, yeah, it just didn't help me for me personally. I'm not saying that quitting was easy. It was actually kind of hard in a way because I for once had to face myself, and yeah, I had to face who I was. I had to be comfortable with who I was, and I made it a personal mission for me to kind of develop and work on myself personally and to be a better person and to do better. So I guzzled down my last alcoholic drink on January 1st, 2016. And I remember it pretty well. I was at a New Year's Eve gathering with my family, and someone was kind of nudging me to continue drinking, and I just felt very sick, and my body was telling me, hey, you need to stop. And not only was my body saying that, like mentally, I just felt like it wasn't what I wanted to do anymore. It just was like, okay, from this point on, I don't ever want to drink anymore. Like, the hangovers were getting really, really bad at that point too. So that was the last drink that I had, and that is something that I'm really proud of. I just want to discuss some of the things that have changed once I decided to be sober, and things that changed for the better. Number one, my physical and mental health improved dramatically. When I drank, I was chronically dehydrated. I feel like I never was quite, I could have enough water. My mouth was dry a lot. I had headaches a lot because of the dehydration, and my face, broke out a lot, I think because of the drinking, and being hungover every weekend, it took a toll on my body. That's not healthy to what I was doing, putting my body into that extreme state. Also, I had some bouts of depression because alcohol is a depressant. So it was bringing me even at a lower state than I already was, you know, and I would often cry and overshare and things like that, and reminisce about all the pain and suffering that I've ever experienced, and just kind of played this victim role. And the alcohol just brought me even lower into this lower state, into this lower vibration. And it was just not a good place for me. I feel like I kept attracting more and more misery around me, more and more pain, because it lowered my energy, it lowered my energetic fields around me. And so I just kept bringing those miserable experiences around me. And when I quit drinking, eventually things got a lot better in my life, because I was looking for ways in which to improve these lower states of consciousness, or lower states of like thinking. I wanted to improve my life, and so I looked for ways to do that. And so I started working on myself. I started holding myself accountable for my actions. And also, again, I started becoming hydrated because I wasn't depleting myself of water by drinking. And I've just made peace with who I am as a person, you know? No one's perfect. I'm not perfect. So I just made peace with who I am. And you know, I can be very awkward in social situations. And so I just had to be okay with that. And also it was like, okay, I'm gonna do better. How can I be better at social situations? And that opened the door for me, and like, hey, I'm gonna challenge myself to be more social and to put myself out there, instead of like, oh, I hate myself, I hate how awkward I am, and you know, whatever, I'm awkward. Somebody out there will like it, and if they don't, oh well, who cares? Number 2, I gained emotional and social maturity when I quit drinking. For a lot of people, drinking is kind of like a way to have liquid courage, to kind of hide behind a mask. For me, there was like this other persona that was more outgoing, funnier than, you know, compared to how I naturally am. But I do feel, because I was drinking and I was using drinking to be more social and to be more comfortable in social situations, I feel like it kind of stunted my social growth and my emotional growth, because I wasn't dealing with my problems head on. I used alcohol to kind of deal with my problems. When I quit drinking, I noticed my bad habits. I noticed where I can grow. I noticed the areas in which I can grow, and in the areas in which I can do better. I had to be very honest with myself though, and that was an ego bruiser. And I think a lot of us try to avoid you know, feeling our ego getting smashed. But for me, that has been pivotal in my growth, because I did need a lot of ego to release a lot of like my negative unhealthy parts in terms of my ego, and just sitting with my ego and this huge ego that I was born with. This is something I'm still dealing with, but I'm very proud that I've dealt with it a lot. And it's not easy to be like, oh, I have an ego problem, or, you know, I think that there's something important about me when, you know, I am an average person. Just being honest and truthful about who I am has helped me grow, emotionally speaking. Number 3, I stopped playing the victim. And when I was under the influence, I was kind of like a fly in a jar, and I just kept hitting this glass wall. In a similar way, I just kept repeating these same stories. I was in this loop and saying, woe is me, I can't believe this happened. And I did nothing about it at that time. I just kept drinking and talking about the same thing. And then what was interesting too is the people I was hanging around with, like, they were telling me their same stories as well, like the same painful stories. And so when I stopped drinking, I did notice that a lot of my drinking friends, like, we just stopped talking, you know. I think what brought us together initially, like, because I stopped drinking, there was not much to talk about anymore because I wanted out of that. I wanted out of that repetitive loop. I stopped with the self-pity. I started taking accountability for my actions, and just saying, hey, I was wrong for doing that. I was wrong for saying that. I'm not perfect, but I do want to change. I want to do better. I want to be better. I don't want to hurt people. And because I was starting to become like that person, or the people who have hurt me, I was becoming that, you know, and I wasn't taking accountability for that. Because I was more clear-headed when I stopped drinking, I was able to notice my patterns, to be cognizant of them, and to really work on them, and to be kind of, I was like a hermit for many years after I stopped drinking, because I did a lot of introspective work, and I'll talk more about that on number 4. But I began seeing my self-worth. I began seeing, like, hey, I am worthy. I do deserve respect. I don't deserve to be around people who treat me badly or poorly. And the reason why my self-respect gained is because I started respecting myself. I'm like, I don't want to drink that stuff. It's ruining my health, you know, it's ruining my friendships, and I just want to be better, right? So I started having more self-worth, and I started attracting relationships and friendships and things like that, where people valued me for who I am instead of something that I'm not, and them not treating me bad. So when I started treating myself better, other people started treating me better as well. Because for number 1, I didn't tolerate, you know, people not treating me well. The 4th thing that I gained from being sober is emotional healing. And sobriety gave me the clarity and courage to face my trauma instead of hiding from it, instead of blaming other people. And I think this started years ago because I've always been interested in psychology. I studied it in high school. They had it at my high school, so I studied psychology then. I studied it in college. Then I went to grad school to study marriage and family therapy. And so I've always been into personal development, but I feel like I didn't really implement personal development until I got sober. And that's when I can actually apply this knowledge into my life. I worked with a therapist as well for a bit of time, and she really helped me because she pointed out the discrepancies in my story and the things that I was telling myself. So she was extremely helpful in my journey. Journaling has been extremely helpful because the times that I didn't see a therapist, I could kind of write out what was in my subconscious, and a lot of times it surprised me what I wrote out. I was like, man, I didn't think that's what I felt. I didn't think that's what I was dealing with until I wrote it out. And I would ask questions or look up journal prompts. And shameless plug, if you haven't subscribed to my newsletter, that might be something you want to do, because I offer free journal prompts in every newsletter. So go ahead, check that out. You can sign up by going to hercosmiccrown.com/offerings. So anyway, besides journaling, I also read a lot of personal development books, and I'm still reading a lot. Like, I love reading like spirituality books and personal development books. And so yeah, those things have really helped me. And then in 2018, that's when I started studying astrology, and then later I studied And then like a year later, I studied Cards of Truth with Ernst Wilhelm. When I finished that program, then I did his tropical Vedic astrology courses, and I've been doing that. And oh my gosh, learning about myself and my birth chart and other people's charts as well but especially mine, I just have more self-awareness about my path and where I'm going and where I'm supposed to be going, the path that I am being drawn to go to. Life makes so much more sense. My life makes more sense, and I don't play the victim, because I see those negative things that happen to me as beneficial things to grow from, to learn from. And my life has just changed for the better. And I think being sober has allowed me to find these ways and attract these positive ways into my life. When I decided I'm not doing this anymore, I want to get better, I want to do better, I want to feel better, I want to attract better. That's when the things came into my life, the knowledge that needed to come into my life, the people that needed to come into my life. And this isn't to say that life is only gonna be beautiful sunny days. Like today, it's a rainy day. We still have rainy days when we are sober, but I feel like I have been able to manage those rainy days way better than I would have if I didn't have a clear mind, and if I wasn't constantly working on improving myself. So anyway, I think I talked your ear off, and cheers. I hope you have a wonderful 2026. I pray for wisdom and understanding for all of us, and that we understand that if we really want something into our lives, it starts with us, it starts with the change within us, and then we can start to see things unfold in our lives for the better. So anyway, I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.